Hey, thank you for checking back in with us so that you can see the part 2 video to our part 1 video where we talked about the pros to homeschooling. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, please take a second, check that other video out, let me know what you think. And if you've already looked at the other one or you're just doing them backwards, whatever works for you, I'm good. Let's jump right in. My name is Melody. I'm the mom of 4 in our blended family of 6. I homeschooler. Okay, that's our word today. I homeschooler too. And I have been homeschooling for 7 years. This year is our 8th year homeschooling. And at this point in time, I have plenty of experience to be able to give you a fair look at the pros to homeschooling and some of the cons. Today's video, we're going to take a look at some of the cons to homeschooling. Before I get started in listing out the challenges, I just want to take a note to say I am a huge homeschool advocate. I don't feel like anything in this world is ever perfect, and so there's always an upside and a downside to things, but at the end of the day, for our family, and I believe for most families, homeschooling can and will prove to be the best option for children's education. But with that being said, there are still some challenges. So today we're going to look at 7 of the biggest cons that I've experienced in homeschooling over the last 7-8 years. The first one, teaching a different learning style. Okay, so I didn't put this on my list of pros, but I think one of the obvious advantages to homeschooling is that you can cater to your child's learning style a little bit more than what the public school can. But what you don't often hear mentioned is that that's challenging. If I am a visual learner and my child is a kinesthetic learner, it really takes some work as the teacher to be able to provide materials and experiences in a way that helps them learn when that's foreign to me. And so if I have more than one child, 2 in my case, at one point 3 because Skippy did homeschool with us for 1 semester, and if they all have different learning styles, that can be a real challenge. I think the more often that you combine activities, so you can do like family learning, that is fantastic. It makes things easier for everyone, except when you have 3 different learning styles, then it gets a little bit tricky. The bookworm is happy to look at a book and just learn from reading. She's happy to just read the materials and she takes it in. Bean Bean is more of a physical. She likes to move her body, she likes to talk out loud, she likes to talk back and forth and get it taken care of. But the bookworm likes things to be quiet and calm, where she can just sit and relax and do this. Or when we do our group activities like history and science, there can be a clash in this. The kids, the bookworm is often annoyed at Bean Bean because she's being boisterous and interrupting and talking. And Bean Bean is then sometimes upset when the bookworm's like, shh, stop it, quiet, I'm doing this. And so there's that clash to deal with. That can be a challenge. But I don't think that clash outweighs the benefits from being able to provide them different materials. With a little bit of tweaking, it is hard work, yes, but with a little bit of tweaking, I am able to provide what they need in the different learning styles. And I also think it's important for children to be able to learn outside of their style. Not saying they should do that all the time, but I need for the, Bean Bean, she wants to get up and move around and interact, and that's great, and I want to cater to that quite often, but sometimes she needs to be able to just sit down and look at her materials and work quietly. That's a skill also, and so we work on balancing doing both. Con number 2, I would say, is a lack of diversity. When we live in an area that doesn't have a lot of diversity to begin with, and then you add to that as secular homeschoolers, finding other secular homeschoolers that want to get together with us and then hoping that we have diversity within that, there's a little bit, of course, but not a whole lot. And it can take a lot of work to make sure you set that up and you work on diversity. I can provide my children with books and videos and movies, but none of that compares to real life interactions. And so our public school doesn't necessarily have a lot more diversity than what I can offer as a homeschooler, but it does, there's a little. And this doesn't, just so we're clear, I'm not just talking about racial diversity, but economic diversity and neurological diversity, that's a big one. So there's all different kinds of diversity, and I feel that it's important for my children to be able to interact with a diverse community. And so that can be a definite challenge as a secular homeschooler in a small community. Number 3, this is a con for both me and for my kids, and that's balancing structure and free time. So I have made the mistake over the years of having too much public school at home in our environment, and that's really not good for anybody. It's highly structured, but it's just not the best way to go, in my opinion. Of course, you have the other end of the spectrum where it's complete freedom and there's no schedule and no structure. That doesn't work for us either. And so finding a balance between those two can be really challenging, to make sure that your kids have enough structure to learn those basics and do the things they want to do, but still feel like they have the freedom to do other things. This is going to depend on family type. This is going to depend on your kid's learning style. It's really, really dependent on the individual family. But in our home, that has been a major con, is finding a balance between those two things. Not only for the kids and the structure of their day, but for me as a mom. I want to do fun things with them, and I want to be obviously fully involved in their education, but we also have 2 other kids that go to public school, and there's other things going on in my life. So finding a balance on how to structure my day where I don't just run myself into the ground can be a real challenge. Number 4, dealing with doubters and self-doubt. Hopefully you guys are confident, proud homeschooling families, and the doubters that come at you, they don't bother you at all, and self-doubt isn't even a part of your narrative, hopefully. For me, that's not been the case. No matter how much I know that what the doubters are saying to me isn't valid and doesn't apply to our family, it's still hard to deal with those when you actually are up against them face to face. We had a barbecue at our house the other day where we had the neighbors over, and sometimes people just make comments in a casual social setting where you're not prepared to have to deal with it. Things like, what my neighbor said to me the other day was, well, I just think it's important for them to go and get that socialization. It's just really important that they get that at public school. And then we're having a Sunday barbecue at our home where I'm trying to relax. I don't want to deal with trying to educate this person on why what they're saying is complete hogwash. I don't want to debate it with them. I just want to have a relaxing weekend. And so it seems like as homeschoolers, those doubters, they're always going to be there. And even if you're not feeling up to it, it's something that we have to deal with. It's definitely a major con. Add to that self-doubt and always questioning, am I doing enough? Are my kids going to be well educated? Even though I look at the studies and I know that they're well educated and I know that they're doing really well and that this is a really good path for them, there's still that little voice in your head that sometimes gets a little louder than it needs to be. And so that can be stressful, and that is a definite con to homeschooling. When you send your kids to public school, it's a lot easier to have doubts about the public school and maybe what they're lacking, but then it's on them and it's not on you. And so it's always easier to criticize something or someone outside of ourselves than it is to have to deal with that self-doubt. I'm not saying it's good. I don't think we should be spending our time criticizing other people, but it's a little bit of human nature to do that, and it is easier to put it off on someone else. So when you're homeschooling, you take all of that on, and that can be a real challenge. I think it's important to remember when that happens, get on social media if you have to, or talk to another homeschool mom friend, and really take the time to validate and remember that this decision to homeschool is very likely the best decision you can make for your kid, and you should be proud of yourself for all your hard work. So just wanted to put that little plug in there that you are amazing and what you're doing is amazing, and don't let that self-doubt get too loud because it doesn't deserve a place at the table. Okay, number 5, and that is public school pressure. Public school pressure on me, public school pressure on my kids. Now, this is a little bit of what the doubters bring in, right? There's that pressure that you're supposed to put them in public school. But the hard part for us is that most of my kids' friends actually attend public school. And so my kids want to go and just hang out with their friends. They don't really know what public school is like for an all day long situation. They just hear about some of the fun things that happen. They don't understand the long-term benefits or consequences for their educational choices, and so they're not really in a position to make that choice. But sometimes they get pressure from other people. Don't you want to go to public school? Wouldn't you like it better in public school? Unfortunately, in our situation, my kids get a lot of that pressure from their other biological parent and their extended family on that side. You would just love public school. It would be great. You should really go. You're definitely going to want to be there. And so as a child, hearing that all the time from peers and family members and even strangers sometimes, there's a lot of pressure that then rolls over and gets put on the parent to put them into public school. That can be a struggle, a challenge. So that is definitely a con. I think this is just one of those things that if homeschooling is important to you and if you have made that decision for reasons beyond just what feels good in the moment, and I'm sure you have because it's a huge decision to make, then remind yourself, why are you taking this path and what is your main goal in this path? And ask yourself, would putting them in public school really help us reach those goals, or would it not? And make sure that you are making those decisions based on your family and not on pressure from the outside world. Okay, number 6, con is expense. So homeschool does not have to be expensive. It does not. Do not ever let yourself think, I can't homeschool because I just can't afford it. Just don't think that way. Homeschooling can almost be free. And once you get into public school and you look at all of the different things, I mean, I've got my public school kids coming to me more often for money for things they need for public school than my homeschool kids. But I, as a mom, am always seeing these extra cool things that we could do as homeschoolers, whether it's paying for an online class or buying a certain subscription box or getting a membership to museums or aquariums or whatever. Those expenses on top of if you purchase curriculums, they can really add up if you let them. They don't have to. But if you're like me and you really like the subscription boxes and the curriculum and all that kind of stuff, it's really easy for that to add up if you don't keep an eye on it. And so that can definitely become a con, having to really watch what you are investing in financially for homeschool. Remember, at the end of the day, you just need a library card and some pencils, paper, crayons, art supplies, all those kinds of things that you probably normally have in your house anyway to homeschool. You do not need anything expensive, but if you want it, like I do, then you might want to watch yourself because that can become a con real quick. All right, last but not least, and I'm just going to be honest with you here, number 7 of the homeschool cons, mom overwhelm. Homeschooling is a lot. Between the pressure and the organization and just all of the things, you combine homeschooling, which can be a full-time job, with just motherhood in general, with being a wife and taking care of a home. If you have a job on top of that or a side gig, add that to your plate and it can be really overwhelming. And so it's important to know your priorities and stick to your priorities. The world can come at you with so many things. Make sure you exercise every day. Make sure you set a good example. Make sure you take care of your personal health and mental health and educate your children on all these different subjects. Well, you definitely want them to learn a foreign language, and they need to know how to be artistic and musical and have sports and socialize with others and life skills. They need to learn how to cook and do this. Well, in our house right now, we have 5 kids. So we've got our 4 kids plus our exchange student. We've got those 5 kids are doing 4 different sports, and we're homeschooling. We've got 2 public school kids. My husband travels for work sometimes. We've got the YouTube things going on. It's on me to make sure we do grocery shopping and feed the family, organize a schedule. I've got some medical things with my shoulder going on, get myself into physical therapy, try and take care of myself with fitness. It can be really overwhelming. And so I know on some days when I'm feeling extra tired, I think to myself, if I just sent my kids to public school, there would be a lot less on my plate. And then I see how much work there is with the kids in public school, and I don't know that that statement is necessarily true, but it does feel that way sometimes. And so homeschooling and mom overwhelm, it's a real thing. I would remind you that your homeschool is in your hands. The pace is up to you. If you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, it is okay to take a step back and take some things off your plate and make sure that your health, mental, physical, otherwise is taken care of so that you can take care of the people around you. Let go of the pressure from other people. If they do accept you as a homeschooler, often that goes hand in hand with them having high expectations of you and how organized you are or how much you're doing every day. And remember, you don't report to anybody except maybe yourself and your spouse. And so long as you two are on board, then everything else can go by the wayside. So if you have experienced any of these cons or some other cons that you'd like to share, please put those in the comment box below. Share them with the rest of our community. Remember that we are here to support each other, and what better way to do that than to help each other find solutions. So if you have a suggested solution for any of these cons that I didn't already list, or a con that somebody else puts in the comment box, please engage, chat with us. Let's talk about those. In the meantime, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Instagram at Homeschool Happy Hour, and I look forward to catching you next time. Have a great homeschool year.